When Hashem engages with Moshe, when he sees the sneh, he sees the burning bush. And Hashem begins to discuss with him and tell him that he has a big plan for him. Moshe becomes frightened. First, Moshe says to Hashem, look, I'm not that kind of person. I can't be a leader, I can't be a messenger, I'm a simple person. And Hashem says, don't worry, I will give you the ability. And Moshe then continues to find different ways to talk himself out of the position. And Hashem says to him, no, I'm pretty sure you're the one, you're going to be able to do this. And Hashem builds up Moshe to say that he will be with him, and that Moshe is going to be the individual who's going to go represent the needs of the Jewish people in front of Paro, represent Hashem in front of Paro, and he, Moshe, is going to lead the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim and lead them back to the mountain on which he was standing, Har Chorev, Har Sinai, where the Jewish people will ultimately receive Hashem's Torah and become a nation. And so Moshe has fear. One of the fears that Moshe has is that he's going to make the situation worse for the Jewish people. And Hashem assures him, listen, in the short term it may become worse, but in the long term it'll certainly pay off. So Moshe's biggest fear is found to be true. Toward the end of the parasha, after Moshe and Aaron go in front of Paro, Paro responds by saying, I don't have to listen to Moshe. I don't have to listen to Hashem. Who is Hashem? And Paro says to the taskmasters, make the people work harder. And he commands them to do the following. He says, until now the Jewish people have been given straw in order to make bricks. Tell them that they are not going to be given straw any longer, but they have to make the same amount of bricks. And so the people hear this, and it just becomes impossible. They throw up their arms, they complain to Moshe and Aaron, they say, how in the world could we do this? What did you do to us? And Moshe, of course, is then walking away from the palace of Paro, thinking to himself, my oh my worst fear has come true, what am I going to do now? Rav Yitzchak Mivarka asks the following question. He says, why is it that when Paro said the Jewish people have too much time on their hands, let me punish them and make things busier for them, why is it that he said, I'm not going to give them straw anymore, but they have to give the same amount of bricks each day? Why didn't he simply say, I'm going to give them the same amount of straw, but they're going to have to make double the bricks every day, so that physically the people would become so busy that they wouldn't have time to think, because they'd be working nonstop to try to provide the extra double quota of bricks each day. Instead, he says, listen, they have to bring the same amount of bricks each day, but let them find their own straw. So Rav Yitzchak Mivarka explains that Paro was not playing with the power, the physical power of the Jewish people, that he knew he was able to make them suffer and able to make them work harder and harder. But Paro wanted to get into the minds of the Jewish people. And so Paro said to the Bnei Yisrael, he said to the Jewish people, you're going to have to find straw on your own. And this became the mindset of the people, was that automatically this is going to be impossible. Because one thought led to another thought, led to another thought, and they said, how are we possibly going to do this? Instead of taking that one thought, working with it and saying, okay, we'll have to find a way to accomplish it. So Paro not only manipulated the Jews physically, but he also manipulated the Jews mentally. And that was the way in which he made life worse for Bnei Israel, for the Jewish people, and why they continued to suffer and suffered more greatly after Moshe and Aaron went to engage with Paro. So this lesson of Rav Yitzchak Mivarka, I think, is very appropriate and very pertinent to our lives. There are times that we have tasks that we have to accomplish, and our mind begins to wander and tell us that the tasks are too impossible for us, that we're not able to do them in an ample amount of time, we're not able to do them successfully, it's just too hard. And because of that, we don't even bother trying. Klal Yisrael somehow found a way. Somehow they managed to produce what it was that Paro wanted them to produce. Even though it was so difficult, even though they had found it to be almost impossible. Nevertheless, if a person has a determination, if a person is determined, a person can ultimately succeed. We have to be careful to make sure that when we look at how our minds work, that we don't let our minds get ahead of us to the point where our minds start working against us, to the point where we start to think that we're not able and it's not possible for us to be as successful as we can be. If we do that, if we make sure that we are in control, we take control of our minds and our thoughts, then ultimately we will be successful, and it will bring us our own personal geula our own personal redemption in our ability to succeed at whatever it is we attempt. Thank you for listening, and have a good shot.